Yeah, I had a that was like Saturday morning. I had a great like time to myself, rejuvenated. I was like told my wife, I was like, I just need like 2 hours, 3 hours max, just for me to just go and sit by a lake and think, and had a wonderful, wonderful time. So
Well, this sounds like a great opening to our conversation. So let's just get into
yeah,
it. Okay.
let's dive
So
in.
2-3 hours at the lakeside, and what happened?
2, 3 hours at the lake. The morning sun had just risen. No, it was a nice day. The day before had rained,
It was a long and
and
stormy night.
it was a long and stormy night. I had wrestled with my thoughts. No, I was wrestling with God. But no, in all honesty, what day was it rainy? I'm asking you, like you live here.
I mean, it was raining like crazy all weekend.
Friday,
Yep.
because Saturday it was raining all day,
Okay.
and I was like in who
Yep.
knows what the mold. I was just in a fog, and it
No
was
kidding.
heavy, and just not like
Man, me
I was
too.
just
Saturday
in a
was a
funk.
headache day all
Was
day
it
long.
rainy? Was it
Yep.
rainy too?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I kept going back and forth like, oh, it can't just be the rain. I'm like, no, it's rain. And I was, so like, this mental game while I'm trying to watch the kids. So like all day was just this weird fog, haze,
Yeah.
frustrating headache, blah, blah, blah. And so I said to my wife, I said, I just need like, and I've been asking for this for a while, and not because she hasn't given to me, it's just I haven't planned it. I said, I just need 2 or 3 hours by myself where I could just sit by a lake and just think. Like,
Right.
it's funny how you don't
Did you
realize
do
how
that
much
while washing the dishes, honey? No.
No,
I'm a man. I can't.
I need no sound. It's like I said, I just need no sound right now. And so she's like, yeah, of course. So Sunday morning, went to church Saturday night. Sunday morning was wide open. And so I said, I just need to go. So went and got my little backpack of gear. I had a journal in case I wanted to write, a free write in case I wanted to type. I had my Bible. I bring them all just in case, but most of the time I just wanted to sit.
Survival kit.
Oh, it really is. So I just sat, had breakfast, all set, and just sat by the water. And it was just a moment of silence. I just like sat there for 20 minutes, not even doing anything, just not thinking, just let me just be. And it was such a nice scene. There's a fisherman off to the side, like just doing his thing, very quiet, like way kind of far down on the other side of the lake. A boat was going by, birds were going, and it was just a moment of just like, like of chill. And then, so I took a while just to do that. But then the thing that came to me, what I was just chewing on for a while, is this verse that came. I was thinking about like our bodies and how, the days and like how I use my body and how it, like why the day kind of ends with like a kaput feeling. Like, I don't know. So many days I end the day with like I don't know, you feel like you didn't do enough, or like you lay in bed and your body kind of like it's like wakes up again. It's almost like it wasn't used all the way. And I was thinking about that, and then out of nowhere, the verse came into my mind. I don't even know why I remembered it, but it stuck out. It is, and I looked it up later to kind of confirm was a verse. It's Acts 17:28. Of course, I should have it pulled up. Let me pull it up really quick, just to say it clearly. For in him we live and move and have our being. And I really just sat with that. And the thought of like, what does that even mean? And I was thinking about like, how we, there's multiple layers of like, one, I want to move more, walk more, use my body more, create. But the thing that was really cool is sitting with the fact of like, in him we move and live and have our being. And so it's like everything we do is not apart from God or isolated, or we don't have to do and earn anything. We don't have to we don't have to show ourselves in any way. It's everything was within him. And I'm sure, and I haven't even like fully grasped what that even means yet.
Yeah.
But to sit and understand, like, I don't have to have enough energy to complete the day. The day is all housed within him. And it's given, and it's a gift to me that I can just accept and go along with. And we've talked about this before, that I think we've talked about this before, the idea that, God's plan for my life is not solely contingent upon my abilities and actions. Did we talk about that?
We may have, but keep going.
And that thought is, I've been wrestling with all these thoughts of like, myself as a father and a husband, like how can I prove myself and do the things I need to do, and understanding that like it's not all on me, though it feels like it, right? As fathers and husbands who are sometimes the providers, or mainly the providers for us, that's the case. And you kind of feel like the whole world's on your shoulders, right? Your whole family and everything. And even as Christians and Catholics, we feel like we still have that feeling Like, oh, I'll pray as if God handles it, but I got stuff to do. And the thought was that, and I'm still kind of chewing on it from this weekend, is that, God's plan for our life, we're just a part of it. And he wants to use us in it. He doesn't need us. Like, our families are taken care of outside of us as well. We're just a part of his plan that he wants to use us in. But he doesn't need us. Like, he'll still take care of my wife and children, even if I'm not around, which is a sad thought, but it's a comforting thought as well. Like, that they'll be taken care of even if I'm not here. And so it kind of takes, again, it's not that we're not needed or we're not wanted. We are wanted, and God's plan is wanting us to be this role. But the whole balance of the ecosystem of our lives and their lives and the world is not resting upon our shoulders. We're taking that away from who God is. So this verse, Acts 20, in him we move and live and have our being. I made this, that's why I wrote a little article upon it, is that a nice practice to, like, as you're walking, to breathe in him, we move out, in him, we live, in him, we have our being. So in, out, and out, just like this kind of processing of, it's not, this whole world isn't just on our shoulders. It's all because God gave us the breath to do it.
Yeah.
So it was just a very refreshing reflection moment. And then here's another cool instance, which I've never had before. And Saturday was a rainy day, all like, gloomy and foggy and whatever. And we went to mass on Saturday night. And I was just kind of like in mass, like, it's kind of still foggy, like, whatever. I just want to just get through, which is not, but that's the reality of it. And then I swear we went up to get communion, took communion, and I don't know what to make of this yet, because I just don't know how to process these things. The moment I took communion, I went to go back and pray, and I'm swallowing it, and it prayed, and I'm just like, in my mind, as I was in prayer, it felt like I was like, I thought this, it feels like the sun has just come out. And I look, open my eyes, and the sun had just broke through, and it was shining through the stained glass, and it was just feeling like that the fog had lifted. And so I don't know what to make of it yet. It was just it was a very nice, beautiful moment. It was that time of reflection, which helped reflect the next day of, like, in him we have all this. And it's not a part, like, these struggles we have or these joys we have are not isolated from this being within him. So again, it's all these kind of like concepts and thoughts, and I'm still trying to like wrangle them all together. And I think I had this thought when I was sitting at the lake too. It's that we don't find joy when there's an absence of hardship. We find joy when we find him. And that was the kind of thought I had. So I'm still trying to wrestle like what that even means, because that's a lifelong pursuit, right? How do we find joy? And then being a Christian for our whole life, or my whole life, it's always been like, seek first the kingdom of God. Like, it's like seeking, like, okay, I'm trying to understand what that means tangibly. Like, I read the Bible, I do the things. How do I find him? I'm here. And so I don't know. There is that, like, my shotgun approach of throwing concepts at you, but this is what it was this weekend of like just these things of contemplation. All in all, to say, there was a very rejuvenated experience of 2 hours of peace and quiet.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm glad for you. Yeah, there's a point at which we can think of ourselves as we're the advance crack troops colonizing hell.
Yeah,
taking the world back, sort of one piece at a time, one life at a time. Oh goodness. Well, like I said before the show, I have a lot of thoughts on all of this, and this show is not an appropriate place to get into it all.
We maybe have to condense that, because we could definitely talk more for sure.
Yeah, major.
I'm trying to cap my own thoughts too.
No, but those do sound like valuable lessons, good things to be thinking of, and that thing of coincidence. This is where, so you're reading that book on spiritual discernment, or discernment of spirits.
Yep. Yeah.
And so there's a corollary here, a line where imagination can be a truth-bearing faculty, meaning when you use your ears, you're not hallucinating noise. You're actually hearing things coming in. Now, there are some points where you are hallucinating noise. And I'm sure if somebody were to push me against the wall, they would be like, you're hearing stuff and hallucinating it into your brain. It's like, well, okay.
All right.
Don't be annoying. So there's a difference between what you're inventing
Yeah.
or hallucinating and versus what is coming in. And the
Mhm.
imagination is another one of these faculties, senses, that can receive things but also hallucinate things. The job of like an adult is to start to be able to tell the difference, to discern
Yeah.
between these things. And a lot of us go our whole lives thinking my imagination is purely my own, and it's not porous and immersed in it's not the hinge point into a whole nother aspect of what creation is. I say all of that to say because same thing happens with coincidence. Sometimes a coincidence will happen and you have to sort of ask yourself, well, was that purely a byproduct of 12 billion years of cosmic dust aligning the sun to shine on me at this exact moment and it means nothing? Or maybe it could mean something. Maybe it's just a little hint of a message or something.
Yeah.
Like I had a little moment where I was taking a walk and it felt so on the nose. I just completely got messed up about it. Like, how do I process this? It was so direct. I was out just praying and I just said, paused for a minute. I was looking around at the beauty of the world or something. And I just said, good morning to God in the world. And then this loud, deep voice instantly said, good morning, right back to me. And like, what? I looked over and two men, plumbers, were walking into a local house and they were saying hello to the person as they were walking in the door. Like, could be nothing. Could be something.
Lord, your servant is listening.
Yes. I don't know what box to put that in my brain. I'm just going to leave that one on the floor,
Yeah.
That's what there's like a growing pile of things now sitting on the floor.
Yep.
So coincidences and stuff that you imagine not always is.
Yeah.
And the matter of being an adult is learning how to discern.
Well, that's what in that book, spiritual discernment, is saying that there's many different instances. So there's spiritual consolation is what they're saying, is like that kind of confirmation and feeling in the spirit that you are connected with God and you can feel him in your, but there's things that are non-spiritual elements that can lead to spiritual consolation. So again, at that point, it's basically one and the same, but it's saying you see a beautiful sunset and you're reminded how awesome God is. Like, that's a non-spiritual experience that leads to a spiritual consolation. Or like for me, like I was, that's what I would think the other day. I was praying by the lake, and I'm just like, thinking about. I was literally thinking about like the Trinity, like God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And then I look up, and there's three birds in a triangle formation flying across. It was almost too much. Like, I'm like, come on, this is too like scripted. Like, you can't do this. But it was such like a nice little like, oh, like that's a nice visual.
Yes.
How in sync they were flying was like the unifying form of that.
That's a moment exactly like that. How do you say this? It's good to see these as hints or smiles or signs from the other side.
Yeah.
Because they do. I remember reading once about Carl Jung, and he would talk about whenever he was having psychotherapy with people, he would always open the windows and he would have them look out against the world, because invariably the world outside our sterile, closed, fixed, and still rooms, the world outside is alive and capable of a lot of movement. And that means it's a lot more receptive to messages and movement and the emotion of spiritual things. And so he would always do that. He said, let's sit on the back parlor or something. Let's open the windows and we'll look outside.
Yeah.
And he would always watch to see what the person reacted to, because a message doesn't appear to the same way to two different people.
Yeah.
And there's one example he gave of, I'm going to tell this wrong, and if there are any Jungians in the comments, correct me. But some person was like struggling with something, and then a beetle came and landed on the windowsill, and he intuited, this is something that is meant for that person. He picked up the beetle and he passed it to them, and the person broke down. And I was like, oh my gosh, this means this and this and this to me, like this specific color of this beetle or something.
Yeah.
And at that point, Jung he's very deeply spiritist and mystical, and I'm not exactly sure, where he lands on a bunch of things. Yeah. But his point was, he was very, very open to the fact that the cosmos and the universe can and does communicate with us. Most of the time, we are blind to it. It's like, it's like having we have a dog, right? And it's so funny, the longer time we spend with the dog, one, the more we realize the smarts and the intelligence, the semi-consciousness behind those eyes or inside those eyes, and how much communicating and talking is happening all the time with this
Yeah.
dog. 4 years ago, I would never have paid attention. We didn't do any study to actually learn how dogs talk and communicate with each other. Their mode of communication is different to ours. So I could have gone like my whole life, like a lot of people do, and assumed that they have nothing to say. And now I'm realizing they have a lot to say, and they're always saying it. And there's a lot that is being communicated if I put in the time to learn the language and then I pay attention. And the world around you is the same sort of thing too.
Yeah.
And your life around you is the same sort of thing too.
Well, I think it's interesting. I was just thinking about this point too. Like, I think it doesn't matter what here, let me try and get these words out. So let's say, like a Rorschach test, it's like that, it's just blobs of ink and people perceive them in different ways. And so there's not a strict or intentional message. So like, let's say I see a horse. The image is not purposely displaying a specific horse. It's displaying a collection of shapes and stuff. And I receive a horse. Is when you think of horse. And then I think of like, if we saw a sign of a horse, I'm still thinking of a horse. Like in both methods, I'm still, the end product is me thinking of a horse.
Yes.
And what I'm getting at, I think is like, whether these things in nature are mystical or purposeful let's say from the other side, a purposeful message, whether it is or not, the end goal is still the thought that you have. Right. And so I'm thinking of like, when I, a lot of times a cardinal, when we see a cardinal, we think of our grandmother for whatever reason. I forget why it was associated, but I think she liked cardinals. And so when we see it, it's like a thought like, oh, like it's making me think of her, and whether I see the cardinal fly by or a picture of her or somebody talks about her, the end goal is I'm still thinking about her. So in that respect, the argument whether, the cardinal is, let's say, a message from her or not, I think it doesn't really matter because the end goal is I'm still thinking about her. So, and I don't know what to make of that. I think the thought is like, whether it is or not, I still can take it as a message or something, because whether it's again, like what I'm trying to get is whether it's a distinct and purposeful message from her to me,
right, or
just a me reflecting on her on earth, I think it doesn't matter.
With this whole conversation, you obviously have to be careful about going too far the other way. And now all of a sudden, everything is communicating to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, what you're doing is you're communicating to yourself, I am the most important thing and everything is trying to talk to me.
Exactly.
You're back to being a toddler, like everything is about me. But at the same time, and this is where, again, we're talking about, you can either hallucinate data, like a Rorschach, which doesn't mean nothing. Sometimes we sit in bed and hallucinate really cool stuff that we turn into novels or YouTube videos. But then there's other times where you can actually be receiving something and you can mistake it or you can ignore it.
Yeah.
But I do believe that there are plenty of instances or some where things like distinctly colored birds and bugs and butterflies and animals and things are used as messengers, also known as angels. Their faculties are borrowed or whatever. One example that sort of blew me away was right after my wife's grandmother passed. She loved morning glories. Her name was Gloria, and so she loved morning glories. And nice. We had just moved into a new little rental in, where was it? South Carolina. And out the backyard, it was facing a pen filled with goats. And these would be dehorned goats, and they would keep rotating them in and out of this enclosure. We moved in, and after a couple of weeks, a crop of morning glories grew directly across from our back door. Nowhere else, anywhere up and down the 20 lines of houses. It was only in front of our door.
That's cool.
Could be nothing.
Could be nothing, but it could be
something. Now, what do you take from it? Well, I would use that as, prompts to remember her, to pray for her, just to chat with her a little bit. It's not always nothing.
Yep.
So
I know that's the discernment. It's not always nothing. It's not always something, but to live in that line of like curiosity, but not, you're just taking everything as everything is, for you. but that's what I think there's a healthy dose of being curious. And I think that's what I brought to the lake, that like, because we've talked about these conversations many times. And I was like, the lake is a perfect place. There's so much activity, there's so much around you that like, just be curious. Just tune the radio a little bit on to like listening, and your mental radio, and then just see what kind of frequencies come by, and then parse it out. Like, because there's time. I was sitting there, and one thing actually did stick out. I was going to tell you this. I was looking around. I noticed to my left, like I'm looking at the grass. It's all grass around me, and I'm looking to see, one fly kind of going in and out of the grass. I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that fly there. Then I look around closer and I see there's 2, 3, 5, 10 flies, like all like kind of in and out of the grass. And I look around, I see this giant field. I'm like, the thought was this: I didn't even know there was that right there. And I look out and see all this grass, and who knows how many flies are in and out of this grass. And my thought was this: like, if I wasn't paying attention, I wouldn't have seen this movement all around me.
Yeah.
And if I reflect on my life, is like, who knows all the ins and outs of, we'll say, what God does in our life, what happens in the background that we aren't even aware of, like the movement of life that we're not even aware of. I think that was the biggest kind of reflection point. When I see these little flies, I'm like, I didn't even know that. And you think to yourself, like, I'm in this rut of my life, I'm whatever, like I'm frustrated at this, but you don't even know the things that are going on in the background, like the like we talk about, again, we do the Saint Michael the Archangel prayer in church, and I'm like, you don't even know the spiritual stuff that's going on, or or even non-spiritual stuff, the stuff that's being worked up and you don't even know about. Mostly it's spiritual. I don't know, that kind of like, it gave me a lot of intrigue, thinking, when you go through a moment that maybe be difficult, you don't even know how it could have been potentially even more difficult had not there been, angels on your behalf fighting for you. And I don't know, it was very interesting. Like, again, very interesting lake visit, but
That really sounds like it. My brain's going all sorts of ways.
oh, I bet. Yeah.
And again, this is not the podcast for getting into like
I know
fringe theology stuff.
We're talking, we should have like a fringe
not
theology.
the sense, not that you were going fringe theology. You're doing great. My brain wants to go like, let's go, let's make it weird.
Well, this is, you know what, and maybe not this setting, but they're in our own faith. We should be like the kids of the schoolyard with the fence line. We should be able to play all the way up into it and explore. I personally think that's okay. What you do with it is then that's the difference.
No, I totally agree. I'm actually annoying, and I'm like, there shouldn't be a fence line. Who has the authority to put a fence line there? And that's a whole nother question. But it's just not this show to get into all of that. But that being said, that does sound like a beautiful morning. I'm glad that you had that. I think I read also once that body of water, like a lake, also has a lot of very powerful, grounding energy, because it's where not only energy goes to ground, but then water has really good stuff in it, and so it's very centering, very grounding. Well, from that standpoint as well, to be near it, be present to it.
That's what I think, and this is even more applicable to like this style of podcast. Is my secondary little thought, which was that like we've talked about like hunter-gatherers, Hunter-Blatherers, and like old ancestral. That's what I was really chewing on too, like what our bodies were created for, like to move. And I was like, that's what I was thinking. We kind of teased in the beginning, but like I want to like break down my day like this. So in this new format, that's what the article I wrote, and then we can look at it later. If it's
let's talk about it. That sounds interesting as well.
Yeah, it's the thought is being a modern hunter-gatherer. And so I broke it down to what I think are 4 elements of every day, which is movement, communication, creation, and reflection. So movement being every day, move as if you think about like what our bodies are made to do. You wake up when the sun's up, you move, you walk. Think of like if a hunter or a gatherer would walk. I forget the stat. Like they would walk like 10 miles a day or something like that. It's like an insane number, or maybe it's not, but it's a lot. So I think of like how much you're actually moving now.
Grabbing a horse. Make the horse walk 10 miles a day.
Who are we kidding?
Come on, this is the 14th century.
At least walk more than I am now. Sure. And so incorporating movement, and then think of like, our bodies are made to run, jump, climb, lift, and carry. Like I was reading this one article that this guy, his workout is basically just doing like, it's called like the farmer's workout. You're just like literally lifting like heavy bales and moving them across the yard, do all the things a farmer would.
Hmm.
And you
Okay.
think of like that, like you don't have to like do like these exotic workouts. It's literally just lift something heavy and carry it across a yard.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Also known as laundry.
yeah, do laundry for Pete's sake. This message is sponsored by laundry.
Sponsored by Oh, speaking of laundry, we should talk about that later. I got a little
new laundry technique.
No, it's an episode around my stupid laundry machine and the issue with my landlord and stuff. So that's fun.
Oh,
anyhow, let's come back to it.
There's a good teaser. I want to hear about the laundry. Is it the Deaf Landlord? No. I'm cross pollinating.
Deaf Landlord owns the house behind this wall. My landlord is somebody else who has no idea how to be a landlord.
Oh, but full hearing?
Oh yeah.
That's good.
Not that it helped. No, actually, no. Well, I talk, and he doesn't hear anything.
He has the ability to hear, but he doesn't
the
do
attention to or something.
Exactly.
Whatever.
But yeah. So yeah, movement.
Farmer's workout. Yeah.
Farmer's workout. Move, get up, and we went to a race this weekend. That's why the kids did like a kids road race.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and I used to be a runner when I was in school and in teenagers, and I did a couple of road races 7 years ago or whatever. And I maybe want to get back into running. The thought was just like, I feel like I need to move more. Like there's just so much, and I feel like that thing in our body that kind of like at the end of the night that's like agitated. It's like a lot of it, or maybe part of it, some part of it is because it didn't move enough.
Right.
It didn't do what it was created to do. So that's the button on that one. 2 is communication. And I was thinking about this, that we need, like, we're communal people, we're communal beings, and to do actual, like, it's tough because we talk all day, and it's very beneficial and it's very deep, and I think that's fantastic. I don't know what to make of that, because I think we do something that's very interesting, but I think we also need to communicate in person with somebody, like that feeling of like at the end of the day, getting by the campfire and whoever's local to you, like debriefing the day. How was the hunt? How was the farm? And talking about the day. So if it's your spouse, your family, I was thinking like even the mailman, you find somebody to do that person to person interaction with.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, even if you're like a loner in the middle, you could just go find somebody. That's why I thought the mailman. And then I ended with like God, like communion with God, like talking and praying. And we just need that communication, because if it's all, we're not meant to have it all stuck in our heads. I don't think. Again, that one I'm kind of still wrestling with. Creation. So I think we're meant to make things, not necessarily always tangible. Like we could write, we could draw, we can sing, we're made to do something with our bodies and make it. So farming is, you're cultivating the earth and you're making food from the earth.
Or like orchestrating activities or helping somebody else accomplish something.
That's I think creation is very broad. Yeah. But you think at the end of the day, like, did I like make anything, or did I just consume? Because you could have a whole day of just eating, watching, which are rest days are fine. But I'm thinking in general, I think we should have an element where we've created something. And make it like one clear target. That's what I was trying to reframe it as, like the hunt, like one thing, a goal, like not just. That's why when I think of like, oh, I want to do this, I'm like, okay, let's just zero it in.
Right.
And then
you can't shoot 3 rabbits with one shot.
This is the tough part. As someone who is not a hunter, speaking about a hunter is, so in my mind, I'm like, I have concepts and theories, but I'm like, I don't even know if that's actually like, because my thought is like,
22 will take down a bear for sure. Yeah. This does not sound legal advice, friends. Do not shoot a bear with a 22.
Do not.
No.
But I'm thinking, like, in my mind, I was like, this concept was, oh, well, like a hunter would go after one animal. It's either the wolf, a deer, birds, fish. Like, it is one thing. This is the theory, which I've not founded upon any experience. You wouldn't go out for the day and go, oh, I'm going to hunt bird in the morning, deer in the afternoon, and then a fox at night. Like, I don't know. I think you usually stick to one animal in the day. Again, if you're a hunter, please let me know. I'm probably totally off on that theory, but the idea is that you focus in on a specific set of goals, not just this crapshoot. And then the end is reflection each night. So not just sit and collapse and do nothing, but like have a moment of peace where the day is that you kind of end the day. You have a moment of reflection, either with then connects with communication, or reflect on your own day. What went well, what went bad, what can I improve, what am I thankful for? Just to have that time where just the day just doesn't bleed into the night and evaporate. You have that moment of like reflection.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that kind of buttons up my Saturday nugget of thought.
That's great. Speaking of reflection and like project, like what you and I are doing here, I'm just thinking is also, I wonder what the long-term outcome will be from this. Is effectively journaling together once a week, and we're creating kind of this cool written, recorded diary entry of what's going on in our lives and how we process and operate and do stuff. I think the connection dropped. Are we still here?
There we go.
Testing.
Nope, I'm still here. Yeah.
Did the connection drop?
Yep. For a second, but it picked up really quickly.
Okay. I think we're back. So I wonder what the long-term effect is of us doing this sort of weekly journal, entry from the point of view of like paying attention to us, but also chronicling stuff that we're processing at a given time. And I like the mindset of how I will never meet either of my granddads. They both passed, and they're both living in two different continents from when I was. So never had the chance to meet them. I don't know what they thought about anything. So I'm just thinking, like, for my grandkids, something like this means they're going to get a chance to see what granddad thought back when he was a weird 37, whatever, And that awful Uncle Gabe person that he was chatting at the time.
Who is that?
Who went on to do all kinds of other crazy stuff that no human should legally get up to or whatever.
Legally.
But I was also thinking, like, talking about reflection, how my wife was talking with me over the weekend about like ChatGPT and how it's now, I think there's stats now that chat is the most used tool in terms of therapy. It's in more use than people,
I agree,
especially millennials, actually going out and getting therapy. And I was thinking about that because I've started talking about what I think about how AI can be a helpful tool. So I start being served up content on YouTube and Substack about people talking about it and stuff. And some of it's interesting, and some of it just shows like you people aren't spending enough time with this tool at all. You're getting all hung up on the flaws of the tool or whatever, and you've not understood it. But it just got me to think about how our generation as millennials, we're like one of the first maybe in a general sense, we're given like a sense of self-awareness and self-consciousness, and then no budget to pay for any therapy to help you navigate and manage that. It's like taking a rat, dropping it in a maze, giving it self-consciousness, and then shutting the lid. And it has
good luck.
How am I supposed to handle all of the everything that's inside me? So having I think that's one reason why our generation and my life can feel psychotic sometimes, is because we have no ability to process the deepening of self-consciousness that's happening. Now, I don't know that self-consciousness is the same as self-awareness, although it's probably just semantics. We're more aware that stuff is going on, but we're not paying attention to it and processing it, and sorting it and organizing it. It's just like the music has just been dialed up and we still don't know what music is. Anyway, that's kind of a tangent. Where I'm trying to go with this is stuff with like chat. I think chat and like conversations like this and so on. Chat is valuable not just as I don't think it's a good idea as a therapist, obviously long term, but using it as a conversational diary assistant. That's really quite helpful, and I like using it that way.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I've had really good experiences with therapy. I've had really poor experiences, and obviously, I think ChatGPT outweighs the bad experiences, but it underperforms with the good experiences. So I've had times.
What's valuable mostly is the mirroring, because sometimes we have no idea what we're thinking until someone says it back to us.
Yep.
Right,
100%.
and that's why we get into conversations. So, in a way, in a limited sphere of life, it's like good to have something mirror back to you, like what you think. Now the problem is if you stay in that for too long, you turn into a narcissus flower. Right? Hence the myth. Too much mirroring gets you stuck in your own self. But some allows you to own the fact that you actually think something, because most of us don't even do that.
Well, that's what I did. I took like a year's worth of journals because I had it all typed out. So I had it online. I took it all, put it into chat. I said, just help me understand like the themes I'm continually, what are the undertones of what I'm not saying out loud, like that are strung across all these.
Yeah.
Cause I'm like, I know like there's something fluttering around, but like what's going on? And it was able to help me see that. Like it didn't help me like process it, but it said, hey, like I could see through all these writings. You have these tones of this kind of struggle and this thing. And so that was very helpful because it illuminated what I'd already presented. It just helped me digest it. But I wouldn't then like, cause I then tested out, I'm like, okay, like what do I do with that? And it kind of gave it that part it's not really strong at really. It's like, cause it kind of gives like wishy-washy, like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to say it. It's like, you know, it kind of defaults to like, well, just give yourself positive affirmation for like everything. I'm like, okay, well, there's a degree where that helps, but then there's a degree where like, okay, then
Yeah.
that's
has
not gonna help
no
anymore.
context for
No, because it can
human
only
experience.
exactly. It only can delve into the human experience which it's received online and the thing in the themes and the patterns it sees from its processing. So it can only do that, but it can't like see me as a person and see me as in my own human heart and interactions and be like, oh, okay, I know what you're saying, but I could also decipher your relationship between your family, whatever.
It's also playing a mind game where it's taking all the words that you give it and it's trying to run inference patterns on them and think, well, if they say these words, he probably wants this kind of output. And it's constantly playing that level of game. And half the time, you and I know this, we say crap that we don't actually mean because we're field testing what we think and see if it sounds any better when we say it out loud. Whoop, that wasn't smart. We're constantly doing that. And another human understands that that's what's going on. Now, you can chat to be like, pay attention to only 50% of what I say. But at some experience of what a human is, this actually, so this dovetails into a side thought I had. We're in an era right now where we're building tools and robots and programs and algorithms, whatever, that can replace almost everything that a human can do. It is possible for us to, like you're talking about exercise earlier, learned this quote the other day. I think it was from Mary Harrington. She talks about feminism a lot and stuff. And she was saying how with the Industrial Revolution, we had to invent a whole new sphere of human activity called exercise because that didn't really exist before the Industrial Revolution. And so I thought it was kind of an interesting observation and very true. I see all of these people doing all this exercise and stuff like that. And I think, I'm glad that they're being healthy and whatever, but functionally, all of that exercise is not going towards anything. Like, what if there was like a volunteer program to build homes or something, and you're like lifting the kettlebells, but it's like bricks and you're, I don't know, building cool stuff, and all of that energy is then directed and being functional or something. Anyway, that's a side point. The idea that I was trying to get to is it is possible. It's now possible, increasingly possible, to build tools that can automate and replace everything that a human can do, like these Tesla bots that are coming out with the black faces and the the white bodysuits. I am asking myself the question: how long does that last? Yes, we can. It's like Jurassic Park. We can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Should we? At what point can we replace everything that a human can do to the point where it is able to now kill us? And then we wonder, is this actually what we want to be doing with all of our creative genius? And I think it's at that point where we begin to realize, we start having work our way backwards. You can either like work your way towards a goal, recognizing the good of the goal, and then you marshal all your energies toward it, or you go the other way. It's like what Jordan Peterson does with a lot of his work, where he's somebody who spends his whole life and he's studied, for example, how concentration camps and gulags work. And so he's like, that is an ultimate evil in human society that must never happen again. And so staring at that, symbol of evil, that incarnation of evil, he's now walking backwards away from it. So if we never want to be there, what are the paving stones that we have to put down, never losing sight of it, so we walk away from it? So it's like you can either walk towards or run towards ultimate goodness, or you can walk away from ultimate badness, something like that.
Yeah.
And we're at an age right now with all of this AI that we're building. And as much as I can appreciate how good it can be, I'm not naive in that I recognize there is a crap ton of bad that is probably around the corner, unless we figure some things out. And again, I can't do squat as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
But whatever. I guess where wrap here I'm trying to go with is we can walk backwards from the recognition of something like a semi-sentient, and that's not the right word, an artificially sentient Tesla bot that is functionally able to replace all human activity in a culture. And then the human is lying on the ground, terrified, looking up. And we, in those moments, recognize and intuit something very existential, very deeply real, that it is good that I am here. I want to be here. I want to live and to contribute and to do something with the fact that I am here. And I've created a golem out of earth and silica and, electrical circuitry and programming that can replace me. But I, as a human person and individual, don't want that. I want to be here. And so even though we can automate everything, there will come a point where we recognize something like it's vital that every human person has something in their life not only to do, but to flex against and to be creative with. And so some things we will sort of swing back the pendulum. Here's my positive outlook on the future, is that we will swing back the pendulum. We will over automate, and it will create horrible rebellions or, problems or something. And hopefully we can solve this before it gets to that point. But then we'll swing back towards something that hopefully, I hope, is more human, that does welcome the human person into the mix. But we use the tools to solve the mind-numbing and bone-crushing tedium of how hard it is sometimes to be alive, especially when you have to self-produce, everything to keep yourself alive.
Yeah.
That was a long sort of thought in like 1 second of a movie.
It's the intro
main
to the
point
movie.
being, a human is a vital and important thing, mostly because the seat of your experience is inside you and within you, and you don't find it anywhere else. And every single human is stepping up to the same line in the same sense that I want to be here, and it's good for me to be here. And if we ever see a human who doesn't have that central core idea, we think there's something wrong with you, because every human wants to be here. There's something wrong with you, and you need help. And you're not all there, and you need support. So this is, I guess it comes back to it. And kind of what you and I are trying to talk through and figure out in our show is, how do we build a future we believe in? Because any future that decenters the human, not just the human, but the person, but especially humans, because that's our species. I don't think this is, my mind's going everywhere. Let me stop. Anything that decenters the thriving of the human person is an inadmissible answer. Not just like, it's something to be argued as problematic. It's like, no, that doesn't even deserve to be on the table. It's not even a point of contention.
Well, it's funny because this all make me think of how it's loosely attached to it. It's this idea, like we've talked about this, like hunter-gatherer, kind of like this old type mindset, like this. But now I was thinking about this the other day, like how could you even get back to a point where things are more organic and analog? And I was saying, like, the people you see online who live these off-grid lifestyles, whatever. A lot of it's only possible because they have this secondary stream of income that's this virtual entertainment, right? They record it all so we could see it and they get money. My point is that, like, I'm trying to think, like, how do you even get back or get to a place where you don't need to be tethered to, though I recognize all the good that the internet, technology, AI has given me and my family, it feels like as though you almost can't get away from being tethered to this connection, this digital connection. And even the people who, tote a life that's disconnected from the world, right? Like they're, self-sustaining, you watch them on YouTube, but like their income is from their tethered, their tetheredness. So it's like they're showcasing a lifestyle that's untethered, but they're only doing it and sustaining it from this tether, which is odd. I'm like, unless they can do it otherwise, but the ones I've seen, that's their source of income, right? Because you can't grow unless you have an insane amount of land. You can't grow enough. Again, this is, without educational guess, but you can't grow enough or make enough to sustain every part of your life. At least I don't know. Maybe you can. Or I don't know how much land you would need, how many animals you'd need, how much. But it's like there has to be some point where you do need money. And there's some point where you need to be tethered. I haven't found a way to make a thought or a career and a lifestyle that is fully untethered. Not saying that I actually do want to be, but not solely reliant on that tethered. I want to be more immersed in nature and the surroundings and the human experience. Kind of a wishy-washy thought pattern I'm just kind of throwing out there, but it's like,
I
don't know.
agree. I want to find a way to be using money less. Like if I could find a way to barter more.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's bartering time or services or support or help.
Yeah, which is I very rarely does that come across right? Bartering and trade. But it's funny, like it was an odd experience. This friend of mine across the lake, his dad makes coffee.
Oh wow!
And he's in South Carolina, so he roasts his own coffee, and so he sends it up north. And we, I mean, I haven't paid for a single bag. I've just traded services.
No, so I didn't know about this side of your life. Yeah. So what do you do?
I make shoes. No, I helped design a flyer for his family for a business. I helped design a website. No, sorry, that was a different thing. We did the flyer. We did some other truck wrap design. I helped him do something. So we've just been trading goods and service. Yeah, it's like, where else in life do you get like that?
Yeah.
Other than I found like trading like collectibles, like trading cards, but that's just kind of a one for one thing. Yeah, I don't know. You can't just go to a store and like barter. I wonder if there is a store you could do that, but that's the only instance I've ever had of doing that, which is very fun.
Yeah, I don't know, but I do think
go to a Walmart and barter.
I don't think it's just a dark, cynical side of me, but there's obviously an incentive from a whole lot of people to have all of us using one form of bartering, such as money, or using money to indicate bartering, so that you can track it and you can nickel and dime it. Half the time I'm stuck trying to figure out, like, how can I make more money? How can I somehow squeeze more blood out of the stone of 1 hour and make it more productive or something? And it just gets a point where it's hitting the upper limit of like what's possible. And then I go and I follow business gurus, and they're like, well, if you want to, maximize your productivity or more time, you got to bring in more people and you have to delegate and outsource work and stuff. And I'm like, I can't hire anybody. I can't pay anybody. How do I get out of this rat race game? And so that's one half of my brain going like, how do I make more? And then the other side is, it's another answer here. You could just need less. Then the money goes further too, because you just don't need to use it as much. How could that be a thing? So I've got like one idea of like, if I can ever get some land in the future, one thing I'd like to do is drive down to the local farmers co-op or the local Amish group or whatever, or something, go, hey, take a quarter of my land and just grow anything that you want on it. I only want, I don't know, 20% or something of what you grow, so that I can eat. Then you can just sell all the rest. And then, I don't know, give me a percentage, or we'll have that conversation. But the sense of like helping somebody else, I'll share my land so that you can do something. Sort of as an aside, I was sitting up on hillside during the last fall, October, November of last year, and all of the leaves were gold and gorgeous and stuff. And so we drove up along the Appalachian Trail and we're looking down at some of these beautiful locations. And I was really struck. I think I might have mentioned this to you. I was really struck at how quiet and empty and beautiful the landscape is. And how up at the top of the ridges, all of the trees were bare and brown, and then down towards the little valleys, it was like all the gold in the leaves had pooled down like big lakes of trees that still had all their leaves on it. It was like just sitting there thinking about like, why is that? Like, why didn't it all go brown altogether? Why did the ridge lines, drop all their leaves first? Stuff like that. I was just mulling on it. And then I realized, oh, you know what? I remember growing up watching Red Dawn, and I think I watched that once, the one from the 60s. If you're not familiar with it, it's where, what are they? Russian-backed Cubans airdrop in to the United States and take over the country. And I don't know how much they take over, but as far as the movie goes, they effectively shut it down and they block off all the highways. And nobody can talk to anybody. And the story is about a bunch of teens who hot-foot it out into the mountains and then disrupt all of the efforts of these Cuban soldiers to control this town in Colorado or something. And so it's a bit of an action movie, and they're, um, you know, uh, stealing equipment and bazookas and machine guns and whatever, and they're again stopping these Cubans from being able to control their hometown. And I remember as a kid, I think I watched it once, and I thought, heck yeah, that's like the
Yeah, we
dream
can
of
do
my
that.
kid generation. Like I would know my area and I would love my area, and I'd be like, this is my home. Right? You don't get to come in here and do anything.
It's my house. I have to protect it.
Exactly. Where's that from? What movie is that from?
Home
There you
Alone.
go. Home Alone. And so that sense, I think that there was a pride among young men
Yeah.
to run everywhere, climb every tree, know every nook and cranny of your area.
Yeah.
And there would then be this sort of the feeling that would follow from that, which is if anything were to come, I would know exactly where to go and what to do to how to fight back and defend it, because this is my area. It's like my extended body. This is me. And so I then watched the remake, which was like, I don't know, 20 something with Chris Hemsworth. And it was kind of cool too. And it sort of did some of the same things. And I was sitting there on that ridge line and I was looking down at all these gorgeous leaves. And I realized I don't know of any in this generation right now who have that same pride. Nobody's out hunting through the woods, running through anything, feeling this same sense of, if anything were to happen, I would know where to go and what to do and where the hideouts are, where the caves are, and how to survive a little while and how to protect my area. Our generation and the next have absolutely no sense of that. And I think that feels like a really sad loss.
Yeah.
For even people, for humans.
Even another layer to that is this connection with the land around you. And I think about this a lot. Like I go back to my childhood, my hometown, and there's so many times where you go by, it's like there's a corner of a street. I'm like, oh man, I remember me and my friend, hung out there. Like that memory is mapped to that spot. Or there's a time that, later on in life, our kids, like we pulled off and the kids had, somebody had a stomach ache and yada, yada. But there's this side of the road that like, is forever
it's really green right there. We know why.
Exactly. I think it's like there's so many times like we went for so long in our first apartment thinking like, oh, we're not going to be here long, so let's not attach ourselves to anything. And only in the last year or two we really like, it's funny, like we ended up moving anyways, but we we're like, let's like really like kind of like get to know. So we went for walks and you got to know like, and your life starts imprinting on the land around you. And I think how a lot of times there's mentality, at least in our life, like, well, we don't know how long we're going to be here, so let's not attach ourselves because it's going to be harder to detach. But at a certain point, I think that's not beneficial. I found that not beneficial. Yeah. It's that line from Avatar where Uncle Arrow says, "Life happens where you are." He's like, so because the story is like him and the prince were on the run, they were hiding, and he's like, I'm not. And the prince was like, I'm not gonna, talk to these people. Like, I don't belong here. We're just moving on. And he's like, no, like. Life happens where you are. It's like, don't avoid it because you think it's not what it's going to be forever. It's like, be in it. And so I've been trying to do that. Like one thing we were going to like, not name, we were going to name all the trees on the property we're at.
Oh, cool.
And like, just go around like and just immerse yourself in every nook and cranny and walk it. And I think there's something too, like going for a walk in the same path day after day. And you just like really immerse yourself into as you walk, you kind of like recognize every little thing. And what's funny, like this path that I walk, not so much every day anymore, but I notice any sort of change now. The thought, I don't know, there's something in it. I don't know the thought or the philosophy behind it, but there's something about like attaching yourself to the land around you and like becoming very familiar with it. I don't know what it is. I found very great benefit to doing it, but I don't know like the full like evolutionary like philosophical meaning behind it, but I found it very, very beneficial.
I do think that it is very human. And not just from an evolutionary standpoint in the sense of getting down in the dirt and the fact that I think that this is true in a more ideal world, your body would be directly nourished from the land right around you. Kind of like you're pulling the nutrients and the energies of that area into focus into your body, and
which you would be,
so you're eating the food out of your own backyard. That would that would be an older and more normal way for you to grow. But then from like an energy and also a spiritual standpoint, the spirits of that area also have things to communicate and are part of the nutrifying and the growing and the self-awareness and the development and all of that stuff that happens inside you. They're also part of that process. And so if you live your life like you're kind of describing, like you're saying, living in that apartment, like we're only here for a little bit and then I'm out.
Yeah.
Like if you treat life that way, and how many of us do? How many of us like
You're gonna miss it all.
Really good Christians? And this is outside the scope of this conversation. How many like of us really good Christians feel like, well, I'm just a pilgrim, on my way home. Swing low, sweet chariot. I can't wait to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as you have that idea, you will never get out of here because you will have missed the whole point of the incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
Whole point of the incarnation being it's good to be here.
And that's what you sent me. Did you send me the video? It was of this monk. I think it must have been you. He was saying how like there is no tomorrow, there is no yesterday, there's only today, right? Like that life is today. Like we don't live in tomorrow, we don't live in yesterday, we only live in today. I think it was you who sent me that. I'm almost positive.
Yes, I think I know the monk too. He's like he's a Buddhist. Practices Tao in Germany.
Yes, but it was so fascinating. Like even like it's funny how that concept, these axioms of truth, right? Like that's a very Christian thing too. Like God is in the now, right? The present moment. That's our only interaction point with our world, right? We don't interact with our past. We don't interact with our future. We only interact. This is like the illustration of like an hourglass, that little fine funnel where one grain of sand comes at a time. That's our interaction point. And so for me to live in that apartment for 9 years, ended up being 9 years, thinking like, oh, we're only here, we're not gonna, let's not live in it. Like, well, no, I'm trying to actively interact with the stuff that hasn't come down yet, the future. So it's a fruitless effort to live in that mindset. But if I just stay in that mindset, then now that's actually where the day happiness, where God is, that's where I am, that's where my family is. And so even if you are going to be in a place for a year, a month, a week, whatever it is, wherever you are, that's your interaction point. And I was thinking about that even the other day, like, at night, you kind of like, oh, am I ready for tomorrow? You kind of start ruminating on like what I have to do tomorrow. Like there's a verse, right? Tomorrow has its own, will worry about itself. It's an old proverb, right? Or, an ancient wisdom that's across many different religions. It's that how crucial it is if we can get to the point where we live in the now, ground ourselves in the here, and experience what's around us. Like, gosh, if we could just get out of our own, what's, and just get into the earth. That I've been really thinking that's been kind of this little like thought pattern that's been translating or going through a lot of our discussions in my own life, is like, be here, be now. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Will worry for itself. Like the past is the past. You can learn from the past. You can look to the future, but you live and interact in the now. And I think part of that is walking around barefoot in your yard.
There you go. So let's wrap. And talking about ruminating, I almost forgot to talk about the laundry machine. So, ruminating and stuff going in circles. So here's the funny thing: we've had about a year of a growing struggle, dissatisfaction relationship with our landlord, where it began almost the day that we moved in, where he was like, "Oh, within 2 weeks or so, a technician's going to come through. We've got these little blue tape marks all over the house of all little issues where foundation is set a little bit, a wall started to crack a tiny bit, stuff wasn't finished, thing wasn't put in the master shower. So we've got little tape marks everywhere. Guy will come in 2 weeks. He will come through, solve everything. And so we're like, well, I mean, it's not exactly finished, but it's like, you're saying this is going to happen? Like, yeah, it's going to happen. They've assured me. It's, well, cool. I'll sign on the dotted line. Let's take it for a year. The guy never showed. Never. And the landlord began to realize, if I ignore stuff long enough, it goes away. Yeah. Because we got to a point where we were trying to detox from like 2 years of mold poisoning, and our stress levels were like up and down all the time, and we're just mad at everything and trying to like be nice people, and so we just let it all go and stuff. And then the neighbor thing happened, like we talked last week with the Airbnb, and we kept begging him,
Gosh.
like, this is your house. You're the owner of this house. You're supposed to be guaranteeing the restful enjoyment that we're paying for. And he literally begged us, please understand, my life is so hard and I can't do anything. The owner of the house won't talk to me. I can't make the HOA do anything. Just go ahead and call the police on everything. And I'm like, this is not a police issue. And like,
no,
you're supposed to be the grown-up here. You go talk to the grown-up who owns that house, and you drive over to her place of business if you have to, not me. And you have the conversation about, let's be good neighbors together and let's create a great place so that our tenants can give us lots of money, right?
Yeah.
Business. No. At one point, they had neighbor, we had Airbnb people coming in, and they were like, it was, I kid you not, there's no way that this is legal, but they had like 10 kids in there, like this 9-person occupancy. They were like 2 or 3 Indian families all in there. They were making amazing smelling curry. Back doors were open, curry's wafting out everywhere. It's like coming through the walls. Garlic is like,
Nick.
And they're just noisy. The kids are like having races up and down the stairs, and it's getting close to 11 p.m. at night. So I go over and I say, hey, excuse me, could you, cut it out? Very nicely and stuff. And so they sort of did for about 5 minutes, and then it started up again because kids. Well, so I then text, the landlord and ask him, hey, this is the thing. We understand tonight has to happen and stuff, but moving forward, I can't sleep. If I don't sleep, I get migraines. My wife gets badly sick, blah, blah, blah. We're not paying for this kind of situation. Do something like, again, we talked last week. He literally said, it's like, oh, it's New Year's. You have to understand. I have family out of town. I don't want to be dealing with this right now.
Neither do I.
Excuse the F me. This is, I don't care about your situation.
This is my life.
And at the time I was like, okay, all right, we'll pick this up after your family situation. I was wrong. I should have been so much more of a hard ass. Anyhow. One of the major issues we had in this past year, and again, we're building a pattern of behavior here. So middle of last year, like 3 months ago, the dryer basically broke down and it became a squealing banshee every time you turned it on. And there was like a
beautiful
ball bearing
music,
in there.
Right? Yeah.
It was awful. No, it was like screaming.
Oh.
For the whole dryer cycle, and it was an absolute nightmare. And we would sometimes have to do dryer stuff like late at night because we'd forget during the day and we couldn't sleep, and it was bad. So we tried to play the appropriate game with him, like, can you help us fix the thing? It's your dryer, let's go through the process. And so he's like, yeah, well, let's do the warranty, let's call the person out. He hires the cheapest guy to come out, who literally stiffed him out of hundreds of bucks, showed up, diagnosed it wrong, and then didn't come back for 6 weeks and kept calling to reschedule every week. At this point, my wife is pissed as heck at me for being a failure of a husband to not solve this situation properly, right? Which
I'm trying.
I will sort of own, but not totally.
Sure,
and then we finally get to the end, and this guy is like, the landlord is refusing to take any responsibility, will not do anything, begging me to please understand how hard everything is for him.
Please understand.
And finally, I think we end up pushing him to just drop the guy that he's lost money on.
Yeah.
He's not recouping that money. The guy has 1 negative star after being 40 years in business. And very proudly outlasting everybody. I'm like, dude, you still suck. And then we finally, we bought new warranty, had the guy or whatever, came back out, and he diagnosed it was a completely different issue, and 7 days later was back out, and he solved the things. So it was an agonizing 8 weeks of not having a dryer. And
so annoying.
Yes, I know you can do, people, but this, whatever. It's just, it is the first world, and this is where we live, and you need a functioning dryer, and I'm not learning how to wash clothes right now. Blah, blah, blah.
Like on a stone.
So we've got this sort of long ongoing pattern of behavior, multiple things happening. And so finally the washing machine broke down. And so it's basically a year from these things being put in. I've got a sneaky suspicion that it's the Whirlpool brand, and nobody wants to buy the Whirlpool brand. And so they're just sitting in warehouses because it's the cheapest one, I think, out there. They use cheap materials. They bake in planned obsolescence for about a year, and everything breaks down so that you have to rebuy stuff. So if nobody's buying it, so they do contracts with a bunch of houses to just strip mine the houses.
So they get a bunch cheap.
Yeah, just put them all in. And they all break down 1 year later, which is an awesome money-making scheme.
Beautiful.
So our thing breaks down. So we call, we go through the normal route. Okay, landlord, could you please send somebody from the warranty you're paying for to come out and diagnose the issue? To his credit, he does kind of hire a good person this time to come out.
Okay.
The guy comes out and he goes, "Oh, look, it's what the issue is. The chipboard, the motherboard in the back is like broken, and it's now basically just sucking water endlessly forever." And it's like, "Oh, we'll order a new part. It'll be delivered. We'll be back out next Friday." It's wow. Our landlord's finally got it together. This is awesome. Next Friday, guy's not showing up, and he's still not showing up. And so we call, like, "When's the guy coming up?" They're like, "Oh, we let you know a few days ago. He was not coming because the part's on back order. We're waiting for it to come in. He's rescheduled for next week." And we're like, "I didn't hear anything. What are you talking about?" "Oh, well, it went to the contact information on the work order. It's all my landlord." He said nothing.
Landlord.
Yeah. He didn't tell us anything, that the guy was not coming out. And so the part's on back order. At this point, we're so mad that we go, okay, we're going to go buy the part ourselves and hire somebody to just install it. So we start looking online. It turns out the part where it's available is like $1,000 because nobody has it in stock. And we call everywhere. And anytime they do say it's in stock, they actually go look on the shelf and there's nothing there. So we finally get one guy in New Jersey. We're like, "Okay, we're driving 5 hours. Don't, honey, you're getting in the car and you're driving 5 hours to pick up this thing. We're making a day trip out of this thing because we need laundry done."
Oh, man.
And we finally call the guy. We're like, "Okay, maybe just, I know it says it's in stock online. Let's call."
Yeah.
And the guy goes, "Oh, yeah, let me go see. Yeah, no, sorry, we don't have it in stock. Let me go check on their website, the actual website. What they have to say about, yeah, no, they're back ordered from, you'd be 128 in line for somebody who needs this. Let me see when it's going to be back in stock. Oh, yeah, not till December."
What is going on?
At this point, I'm trying to like wrap my brain around how the company that manufacture these things is the company providing the warranty on this.
Yeah.
And they're just saying, "Oh, it's back ordered. We'll send somebody out next week." When a little research on their end would let them know this thing is not back in production until December.
No, it's
gone,
so
my washer is not functional until December. At this point, we're not so we ended up Googling and we found out that under Virginia law, if something isn't solved after due notice to the landlord, if something isn't solved within 14 days, you can arrange up to $1,500 worth of restitution and repairs.
Yeah.
And then you just take it out of the rent.
You get a new washer.
So we did. So we bought a new thing and emailed him, let him know. We asked him, "Do you want us to have the old broken one hauled away or do you want to keep it?" At this point, he's like not responding for like 4 hours. Like every time I text him, like, "What's going on with
what's happening?" Yeah.
And he's like refusing. "No, you can't do this to me." And I'm like, "According to Virginia law, here it is. Here's the bylaw. This is done. We gave you 14 days. You did not solve our issue within 14 days after due notice. And so now we're doing it and it's coming out of the rent. Would you blah, blah, blah." And so we're being, we don't want to get personal. We're keeping this very professional and
business.
Here it is. We're within our rights to do this. And he's like freaking out, "I don't have any money to do this. This is your washer. You can't just go buy stuff in my house. It's like, you can't." And I'm like, "Do you want it hauled away or not?" "What is the law? What's it?" You're the landlord and you don't know the law for tenant stuff. He's like, "Could you please send me what the law has to say? We have to get on the phone and talk about this." And I'm like, I am not getting on the phone because he's a schmoozer and I am not getting into a situation where stuff isn't documented.
Yeah.
I want everything in email, everything in text. If he shows up at the door, I'm indisposed. So we have a beautiful new washer. As it turns out, he's like texting back and he's like, "I would have gone out and bought you a much better thing from Costco." And I would have, we actually Googled on Costco. The one that we actually bought, we got at a discount and is cheaper. We did a good job. It's cheaper than the cheapest one he would have got at Costco. And we got a good one, and we were nice. We got him a 3-year warranty. We're out of this in 1 year. We're not back here next year. We got a 3-year warranty for this thing. So we got all of our wash done last night.
You did above and beyond. Yeah. Oh, nice.
Everything was done. And now
17 loads of laundry.
it's just, it was like our entire wardrobe is
Yeah,
like
I
completely
bet.
empty. Everything's in a pile, you know, because it's been like 3-4 weeks and we
Yeah.
only took action 2 weeks in.
Oh, yeah.
So anyhow, friends, if you have, and that are watching, if you have nightmare stories about landlords and neighbors,
laundry, if you have dirty
air
laundry,
your
air
dirty
it out
laundry
here.
in the comments, and let's just support each other about how stupid life is and how we're trying to hunt our way into a better future.
We just
One
want
laugh at
to
a
wash
time.
our clothes, and we just want to wash our clothes and walk around barefoot someplace.
So much for 2 minutes. That was an extra 10-minute story there, but now you're caught
It was
up.
worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
All right.
The landlord saga.